I think many of the people in the university, many of the administrators have a real sense of the loss of not having Jan around.
Jan was a pioneer, an amazingly brave woman on so many levels, and really encouraged the rest of us to be brave as well.
She had a deep attachment to Rutgers Newark for a 40-year period. As the first female tenured member of the history department, then she became a department chair, and then associate dean, then acting dean, and then full-time dean.
And then when she became dean, she was the first female dean. And, you know, now it seems like, oh, but at the time it was a really big deal.
Serving in the dean's office gave her an opportunity to take her sort of mentoring to a larger level.
She was very successful at letting people understand the power of what it means to have a woman in this position.
She brought the intellectual side of an academic with the let's get the job done side of a great administrator.
Ultimately, lots of people came to know her and love her and depend upon her.
I mean, her students revered her as a historian, but they also loved her just as a person who cared about their whole lives.
Being a dean, which is seen as being very sort of tough, and at the same time, her being very clear and very sensitive about people's families, their own health, whether it be students or faculty or staff.
I can talk about Jan as a historian, I can talk about Jan as a dean, I can talk about Jan as a writer, and we were writer friends, but most of all, Jan and I were just friends.
Most people, unless you know her really well, didn't know that Jan was really funny. Some of the most upsetting and depressing times we would crack jokes.
And she was an exquisite writer.
I never published anything that I didn't give her to read beforehand with great trepidation, but she was a magnificent stylist and also a brilliant mind.
And we have two wonderful granddaughters, and they meant the world to Jan. Introducing her granddaughters to the larger community of friends, to the point where some of the friends would then say, you know, it's been a week, we haven't seen pictures of Beatrice and Ida. Send us more pictures.
Jan is one of those people who would agree with the adage that if you don't like change, you better quit life. If this were that Ken Burns documentary, I would look at the picture of the history department in Jan's early years. It's Jan and a whole photograph full of men. And then I would have you pan in that Ken Burns style and look at what the history department looks like today.
I know the rankings of U.S. News and World Report that said that Rutgers Newark was the most diverse campus in the country was something that she found incredibly rewarding. She really cared deeply about this place and the quality of the students who attended, and wanting to make their lives as easy as possible, so any financial support that her scholarship could provide would go a long way in helping bring people into this community and allow them to succeed.
She has started a scholarship, unfortunately, right before we lost her, but even along the way, just really modeling for folks that, you know, that we need to be philanthropic to our institution, and I think Jan did that brilliantly.
But she thought that a school like Rutgers Newark had a responsibility to grow citizens in a democracy, and that to me is Jan's legacy. And when I think of the Jan Lewis Scholarship, that's what I hope it will continue to do.
Any support for the Jan Ellen Lewis Scholarship would be very important to her and to me and to those who knew and loved her.
She was pioneering in every area of her life.
I would say to Jan, she kicked the door in aid of the rest of us to follow her through the door, and so I always love and cherish her for that.
The impact she had is enormous.